All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are having yourselves a fantastic start to the AM here. Happy Thursday. Happy Liberation Day V2. I think that's what Trump is pitching it as here with a trade deal announcement here. I think projected to be with the UK. And yeah, pretty interesting backdrop for us to kind of hopefully get some nice action in. This has been a week of consolidation, right? If we're looking at price action here from the last 3 days, it's effectively just pulling back inside Friday's range. We made that first little fake out there on ES yesterday, and it wasn't able to sustain any of that downside momentum. And then Powell left rates unchanged in the afternoon. So from a maybe technical perspective, right, this is looking a little bit more like a bull flag, albeit one that's not necessarily super impressive here yet. Generally, what I'm looking for, right, is 3 points of contact on both the upside and the downside. Not quite there, right, for that here yet. I think maybe it could be a little bit more mature, right, I think for lack of a better term. But effectively, right, it's not going to change the narrative or like change how I look at price action here, right? If I'm getting 3 days of consolidation here, I'm looking for that consolidation breakout in the same way that I'd be looking for a consolidation breakout if it was a bull flag or a wedge or an ascending triangle or whatever other technical pattern, right, you might be interested in trading. So today, right, very much expecting it to be a little bit expecting it to be a little bit more. I don't know why my YouTube chat got so big. Expecting it to be a little bit more, hopefully trendy, right? That's kind of like the base hope here today. If I can get that type of scenario, then yeah, should be a relatively kind of clear session. And hopefully, right, the relatively interesting day for us to have some joy. If it's going to continue to sort of consolidate and chop about and bounce around and do all that kind of stuff, then again, it's just going to be really about focusing on just, yeah, not letting myself get greedy, right? Really being deliberate with my entries, my exits, and my take profits. And yeah, just kind of playing the game in the way that we have here so far this week. So good trading day yesterday, good trading day there on Tuesday. And yeah, looking forward to having another third and strong trading day here that kind of starts to catapult us into a nice little stratosphere. So yeah, I don't think I have too much else to say here this morning. I think I talked about it yesterday. But with these early morning wake ups, I'm generally a little bit less wordy in the AM. So let's kind of get after it here this morning, figure out what we want to do, and then go from there. So first things first, let's check the economic calendar. The big thing, right, is going to be Trump speaking here at 10 a.m. So I think that that's going to be a reason, right, to basically slow down my trading here today a little bit and just not look for any opportunities prior to 10. Because I think everyone and their mother and their market maker, right, is going to be waiting for Trump to speak at that time. Maybe it ends up being a sell the news type scenario, whatever you want to call it. But I think we've seen in recent history that when Trump speaks mid-market or midday in the market or, at any time, really, it creates a tremendous bout of volatility because you just don't know what's going to come out of that guy's mouth. So, yeah, really interesting to see what sort of shapes up here. Heck, I might even get a Bloomberg TV stream going or a CNBC stream going here for myself as we kind of creep up towards that, just to make sure I have a good feel of what he's saying and what he's doing. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So, good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are all doing well. If you guys could just give me a quick little good morning back here, make sure everything's working fine in both Discord and YouTube. And we can kind of get after it here this AM. Perfect. So first things first, what's the count on ES? Let's start there. And yeah, let's figure it out. I think, yeah, pretty much everything is set up here. My new spot, just waiting for the new internet to show up. So once that does come together, I anticipate that stream quality will improve even further. But yeah, still just a little bit insecure that the mic isn't working or the screen share isn't working or whatever. So just bear with me and please talk me off the ledge. So yeah, hey, Jay, right, spot on here, 3 for 3 to the upside. But it's a 3 for 3 inside consolidation, right? So we talked about yesterday how it was a 2 out of 3 to the downside with volume, right? But if the bears were actually strong, why didn't they make a lower low, or why weren't they able to sustain right under that Friday low of day? So effectively, right, we're still looking for a breakout from that range. And until we do get a breakout, I'm not going to call any of these individual candles really any indication of trending price action. So what I think this does here this morning, right, is it gives me a little bit of a bias to look for that breakout here to the upside because we have that support, right, and we're closer towards that we'll call upper shelf. But it's reasonable to have flexibility here in both directions, especially with the orange man speaking here in an hour or so. So to the upside here, right, we're looking for a move towards, we'll call it 57.20, right? That's going to be kind of my starting point here. I'm just going to note, right, looking for we'll call it a bull flag breakout. Right, and saying that I'm looking for a breakout effectively diminishes, right, the volume standard that we got established there yesterday, because I'm telling myself, right, that is still consolidation. So ideally what we see here is a larger volume shelf, right, than what we saw there at yesterday's open. I don't think we're going to get larger volume than what we saw during yesterday's FOMC, but that's the nature of the beast, right, on FOMC day. So 57.20 here to the upside, right, is kind of our first target. Then we have 57.30, and we can kind of target this up towards maybe 57.80, 5,800. I think that's a pretty reasonable target for us. 80 points is a lot of space, especially after a decent amount of gapping up here this AM. And yeah, 5,800. I was losing track of the numbers there for a second. But yeah, certainly seems like there's probably that little potential there. The downside case, right, or the bear scenario here is effectively a repeat and inversion of yesterday's price action, right? So yesterday we had a 2 out of 3 here to the downside with volume, and it ended up being a fake out and go type scenario. And so this would be the same thing, right? We'd want to see a fake out here above that Friday high, and then a breakdown back towards sort of that 5,600. So we're going to be a little bit more specific here with what we want to see from our fake out perspective. And then a breakdown right towards pre-market lows and then previous low of day. So pre-market low, we'll call it 5,640. And then go from there. Does that make sense? Cool. So we're effectively just saying, hey, if price action is going to fail, we've seen the way that quote unquote trending PA fails. So let's just make sure that we have the opposite day variant of that, right? If this upside case isn't going to sustain. If we get under 5,600, then yeah, this could be good night, how you doing, right? Type bit of price action, and maybe follow through down towards like 55, 50, right? Would give me a lot of space. Fantastic. All right. The old NQ, how do we feel? Similar, not so similar? Yeah, Jack, spot on, right? So same thing, 3 out of 3 here to the upside. It's Friday's high. So you're looking for a fake out above, Friday the second's high. So you're looking for a fake out above like 57.27, right? So if we're going to get a fake out above to the downside, right, it has to be above that target. If we're going to get a fake out to the upside, Joe, we're looking basically for a little fake out here under the opening range. So that level will be determined once markets open. So if we're going to get a bearish scenario, right, got to fake out above Friday's high. If we're going to get a bullish scenario, it can either be just a textbook breakout from the opening range or a fake out underneath the opening range. Okay, NQ 3 for 3 here to the upside again, right? Same thing. And we're looking for a move towards 2,300. So about 140 points away, plenty of space. And then fill this thing out. Next point of contact on that trend line's 2,600. Excuse me. And then we can go, this thing's going to start to fly after that. And then we can go like 27. Let's go to 21, right? I think that's pretty reasonable. Right. And then to the downside here, same thing, right? Fake out above Friday's high. Then break down towards 19.9. That's going to be our starting point. So and then we can fill it out from there. So a little bit of an easier plan potentially on NQ. Talked about this yesterday, right? NQ is my wife. ES is my girlfriend, and CL is the mistress. So we'll see if happy wife, happy life type scenario here today. And hopefully, right, we get some nice clean price action and start the day off with a nice win. All right. CL, what's the count? How do we feel? Is it kind of the same story as their indexes, or is it a kind of opposite trending story relative to our indexes? Yeah, showing an opposite trend, right? Absolutely. So take 2 out of 3 here to the downside with volume. And I would call this a quote unquote like legitimate 2 out of 3 with volume, right? Because that volume is increasing and outlier and larger than sort of any of the reasonable bullish momentum we've seen in the last couple days, right? So yesterday was the largest volume standard there of the week. Certainly makes sense with inventory day, right? Kind of being on the docket, but that's going to remove for me my bullish scenario. So I'm going to be a little bit stricter here, right, in what I'm looking for. Effectively, right, we're looking for a rejection here today inside this red box. So we'll make this red in a second. But we've seen bears basically be in control here inside that area more so than bulls. Top heavy wiki price action or heavy selling pressure. So it wouldn't be surprising to see bears step in and defend that area here before. So we'll give ourselves that opportunity, right, to look for that ORB fake out inside the red box. And then a breakdown here towards, 50, 58, I think is pretty reasonable as a starting point. Which rounded up, right? It's like 57.80 is our low. So call that $58, and we go 57.50, yada, 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 yada. So plenty of space here, right? If we can get that downside momentum. I don't know if I need to map this out super aggressively. We already got space, down towards 55. So a $4 move on crude would be, pretty epic if we could get it. Yeah, let's see it. Let's see if the old mistress wants to treat us well here today. All right, Apple. So what's interesting about Apple here, right, is that it's giving us a little bit of a divergent narrative relative to the indexes. So indexes, right, are pushing highs. They're showing us momentum, and Apple is kind of lagging behind here a little bit and not really playing ball, right? So the largest weighted name in the indexes is showing us relative strength, and it's going to be a question of which one catches up to the other. Is Apple eventually going to find that momentum and kind of push back up above 200 and, maybe fill that gap up towards sort of 220? Or is it going to continue to kind of consolidate and lag? Not sure, right? But that's really the story that we want to see here at some point. And hopefully, right, we can get a resolution of that here. Effectively, the way that Apple is setting up this morning is it's opening up in the implied middle of yesterday's range, or give or take that implied middle. So it's kind of screaming out for a day of consolidation here. And the rumored trade deal, right, is with the UK today. So that's not going to have a huge impact on Apple, right? The UK isn't like Apple's iPhone manufacturer or anything along those lines. So there's reasons to think that this maybe still be lagging behind a little bit while we wait for more tariff announcements, right, to basically come into the fold. All right, Tesla, 1 for 3 here. To the downside, so we're looking primarily, right, for stories in either direction. Kind of seems like we have 2 windows here, right? You got the dip buyers here, and you got the dip buyers, in that opposite direction above. So let's see which one's in control here today. Microsoft, right? A little bit more impressive relative to Apple. So Microsoft continues to sort of build on its momentum as the largest company in the world. For whatever reason, Microsoft doesn't feel like the largest company in the world. I don't know what that means, but yeah, it's holding up much better, right, than Apple. So our second largest weighting in the indexes is showing us a little bit more relative strength relative to the largest single weighting. And we're still looking for that consolidation narrative here, right? So yesterday we made a higher high and a higher low, and not exactly a super impressive not a super impressive day of price action. So let's see if we can get ourselves some nice trending PA. All right, Amazon. It's, nice little bit of momentum here, right? 3 for 3 to the upside, a weaker 3 for 3, just because that volume isn't outlier. But again, we're looking for that breakout here up and over, and push towards that 200 range. Okay, AMD. I think it's probably my least favorite candle, right? High volume indecision is the worst decision, or high volume indecision is the gift of the devil, however you want to describe it here. But it's above 100, held above $100 there. You're always expecting pretty big volume post earnings. And you know what? We actually saw probably more dip buyers than we did see sellers. So yeah, there's a reasonable argument to be made that AMD does have a bull case here, but I'm not going to be super aggressive with putting too much stock into this. The semiconductor names and these sort of tickers, they've almost like they've gone a little bit out of fashion, right? They're not necessarily the crazy momentum movers that they were in like October and November. So it's worth just kind of letting them rest a little bit before they go parabolic again. All right, NVIDIA, 3 for 3 here to the upside. A little bit of a stronger 3 for 3, right? Strong candle shape. Now the volume profile here isn't fantastic, but if I could get a little bit more oomph, a little bit more pep in its step, then there's a really good kind of opportunity. If I'm looking at this looks like just a textbook ascending wedge breakout. So really nice looking little pattern here on the daily time frame, right? That would be kind of your ascending wedge right there. And certainly seems like it could be setting up, right, to get back up towards sort of like that 125, 130 area. And yeah, kind of roar back into life here to a certain extent. So it's kind of a multi-pattern, right, scenario, because you've also kind of broken out above that trend line. So it's a nice little point here for NVIDIA. Let's see if they can sustain this momentum. All right, Meta, green candle, increasing volume, kind of weak volume though, right? And then a decent gap up here this morning. So again, a 3 for 3 here to the upside. And yeah, looking for basically it to hold that 600 barrier and keep going. Okay, Netflix, again, every day I look at this chart, it blows my mind. And we're looking at a 3 for 3 here to the upside. And it's, you know, all-time highs, right? Crazy. And Google, wow. This was quite the dump yesterday. Just looking at this volume, it's what the biggest we've seen in like pretty much like 5 years. So pretty insane volume bar there on Google. Huge move yesterday, right? So we're kind of expecting it to probably remain stuck inside its previous range. But wow, what a day, Google. So probably the most likely outcome here, right, after a pretty aggressive dump day there yesterday is going to be like an inside bar, right, or consolidation, or kind of just hanging out, making sure that it catches its breath. But that's a very, very impressive volume bar. Kind of a little bit surprising, I think, relative to some of the other tickers that we've seen here so far today. And yeah, volatility back on the menu with Google for sure. All right, and then the old Vixaroonie, right, 22.83. Divide that by 16. Gives us an implied range of 1.42% on the indexes. And we could be pretty close to those numbers here already pre-market. Now, we've pretty much effectively done that move. So it's something to definitely be aware of, right? But with the Trump headlines expected here today and kind of understanding what the terms of this trade deal are going to be, it definitely gives us an opportunity, right, to outperform that implied daily range, especially because we've effectively been dealing with just a week of consolidation here so far. And so the market is like coiling, right, and ready for that explosion. So let's see if it comes together. And if we can get ourselves a nice little bout of momentum, I think that ultimately, right, would give us just a tremendous amount of enthusiasm and joy here today. And yeah, hopefully we can take advantage of that move. So any questions here, team? Everything kind of makes sense. Everyone kind of understand what the plan is here this morning. Let me know, and we can kind of make sure we touch on some stuff here again properly. Or yeah, you just get ready for what should be a strong trading day. Oh, any feedback on yesterday's recap video? I'm going to have a chance to watch that. A little bit shorter than the one I made on Tuesday. about half the trades. So that makes sense. But yeah, any feedback there? Yeah, great question. Mississauga property deals. So I look at the largest names in the indexes, effectively the FANG names, because they have a high weighting, right, in how the indexes are going to move. So what I'm looking for is generally a consistent story across the board. The more consistent Apple and Tesla and Microsoft are relative to the indexes, easier it is for us to get that trend day and to get conditions that don't really fake us out. So it gives me an opportunity just to basically make sure that the story is consistent. The way I almost look at it, like to use a metaphor, is that the truth is somewhere in the middle. So, you know, if one kid's talking to the principal and saying, "Oh, like I fought this kid because of this reason," and another kid is saying, "Oh, I fought him because of this reason," the truth is somewhere in the middle. So that's kind of why I look at the leading names. Is it gives me a reasonable expectation to know how consistent the indexes are going to be. And then I can kind of determine, okay, if I'm looking for strength, I need to see X catch up. Or if I'm looking for weakness, I need to see this catch up. So what it does is it gives me a little bit of a fuller picture over basically how strong the internals of the market are. Good, Preet. Do you think I'm missing anything in them? Like yesterday, I figured out how to show the executions on the screen, so that was pretty helpful. But do you think I was missing any? Like, am I missing anything in those videos? Really, what my objective, right, with those videos is obviously to do a nice little recap, right, break down why I think I traded, what I did well, what I did wrong, but also just to be a transparent process, so you guys have no doubts, right, over the entries and exits and techniques that I'm using. Yeah. So in general, right, I view trending price action as requiring three things, right, before we end up ever ripping. So I need a strong base yesterday, right? I need a strong volume, right, indicating that one side is in control, and then I need today's price action to basically sync up and tell me the what you call it. I feel like it gives me just a stronger indication of which direction, right? So if I have like a 3 for 3 with volume or a 2 out of 3 with volume, then I have a better conviction, right, or a stronger conviction that bulls are in control or bears in control, and I should look for continuation of those narratives. Whereas if I have like a 1 for 3 or a 2 out of 3 with volume, then I know I need to see both like a bullish setup trigger, right? To indicate that bulls are in control, and also a volume profile to indicate that there's a new level of momentum. So what it does is it tells me, increases the probability of identifying a trend day, and it also tells me what I'm missing before I can get that sort of trending price action. Awesome, Preet. Well, I'll keep improving it and getting better, and we can kind of go from there. All right, sweet guys. So we got a couple minutes here till market open. Same deal. I'm just gonna go make myself a quick cup of coffee, spend a few minutes here sort of visualizing a successful trading day, and then we'll jump back on in a few minutes and we'll do a quick little rundown before the session starts. All right, so we're back at it here, and yeah, looking right for a nice little trend day here today. Hopeful, right, that we can get something, but realistically, it's going to be a little bit of a slower start to the day here as we wait for basically Trump's tariff plan, right, to come into effect a little bit at 10 a.m. So it's going to be a little bit of a slower morning. I don't anticipate myself taking anything too aggressive, right, prior to that event, is it just creates way too much headline risk. And I think everyone is going to be waiting for those opportunities. So obviously, not to say that I won't be interested or can't be interested or anything along those lines, but I want to be just a little bit careful and a little bit cautious, right? Basically not falling in love with something that isn't absolutely perfect. So I don't know if you guys just heard that ding. I don't care about that global hub. But we just got a bearish signal here to the downside on this 2-min time frame using the mean reversion technique. So this is definitely something that's in play. And so you're looking at call it right down towards 20,000, right? Would be your target. So you'd be looking right there, right? It's a pretty good little reaction. It's also giving us that same signal here on the 3-min time frame. Yeah, I might keep my risk a little bit tighter, which I would prefer. I need to be looking at that. So stop loss would be what is that, 140.25. Well, I'm going to be very, very patient here, right? Like I said, I'm going to be pretty. The base expectation, right, is that it's going to be chop and indecision until we get that headline, right, to drop. So it's worth watching. But again, I don't see myself actually taking this trade here to a certain extent. Just because, yeah, I think the potential to get faked out is pretty punchy. Hey, Oz, how you doing? I also have to say that this morning I am like disgustingly sore. And if you hear me screaming out with a life-ending cramp, I promise you it's not the market. It's my lack of fitness that's getting in the way here. You should be able to hear me. You should be able to hear me. YouTube, can you confirm? I think I've been vocal here. Okay. Maybe you're not live, Rico. I'm not sure. Discord, you guys can hear me, right? Yeah, okay. So again, I'm not FOMOing myself into these scenarios. It was worth talking about them, but yeah, like I said, I'm not going to trade them aggressively at least not prior to the data, right, dropping at 10 o'clock. It's too big of a market potential mover that I'd be surprised to get that 140 points of follow through, right, like it would be expected. So I'm not, I just don't think that there's enough time to be able to execute that trade, or right, that you have a backdrop that's going to basically reward a consistent move. Because I think everyone is waiting, right, for that event. So if we're thinking about where our stop loss would be on this trade, right, it would have been 140 on NQ. And we're flirting with it now. So I think, again, a good decision, right, just be a little bit patient. And yeah, we'll see how the market wants to react here today. What I guess I'm like most curious about, to a certain extent, is the news or the data, right, that's dropping from Trump effectively like a sell the news event, where it was a buy the rumor, right, in the last upcoming days or the last previous days, and then today, right, ends up being maybe more uh, disappointing relative, right, to what was maybe anticipated, and ends up being an opportunity for bulls to kind of relieve themselves a little bit. And so kind of what I'm cheering for here to a certain extent is for that 140 to trigger. Basically indicate that, yeah, the analysis or the view of the market was spot on. Certainly wouldn't have been a profitable trade here yet. And as I say that, it pushes to lows, of course. And then crude, right? We're looking for that fake out inside that red box. So that's, 5 cents away, 10 cents away. So again, no reason to be hyper aggressive here yet. Ooh, nice and cold here today. All right, classic. So we're getting signals pretty much on every time frame here for that mean reversion technique. It's a little bit interesting. It's pretty strong. Some pretty strong looks. I think one thing actually, like I've been working on this strategy probably 2 months, maybe 2.5 months. And I actually kind of feel like I get less opportunities in this than I expected. Kind of interesting. Yeah, probably feel pretty slow start here to the AM. Nothing really crazy going on. And again, still kind of cheering for that 140. I mean, needless to say, right? Even had we taken this trade here so far this AM, it would have not been a mover, right? We've been our implied entry price would have been 126. So yeah, not really a big mover, at least not yet. Oh, excuse me. And volume's quite a bit lower, right, than yesterday's open, at least on ES. And Apple showing us relative weakness. Interesting open. Oh. Excuse me. Yesterday I did my like first proper run here. Did something like it was like 7 miles and like 1,100 feet of elevation. Oh my gosh, my legs are so sore today. Yeah, I mean, I was stoked with it for sure. It was a good run. Oh my gosh, this place is just reminding me that I'm in not good enough shape. Oh, 100%. My goal for here is to either run, hike, bike, or golf every day. So that's the dream in the summer, and then in the winter it'll be snowboard and hike and all that kind of stuff. But need to get those 10,000 plus steps. Like yesterday was like 30,000 steps. So okay, doing a good job there, but oof, not easy. Yeah, that'd be fun. What I think, Vinny, or like the reason why I am I try to be active is because I think it really helps me effectively like sweat out my demons, right? So it helps me clear my head. It helps me kind of finish every day with a win, which I think is really important. Like I can have a really really terrible trading day, but if I go do some exercise, I go do some run some stairs. That's generally my go-to move when I have a tough trading day. When I finish and I get home, like the dopamine of the exercise kind of feels good, right? You feel like you actually accomplished something. And I think it's really healthy to force yourself to finish each day with a win in this career, because the market can feel like such a roller coaster sometimes, that you got to find like your release, right, in other contexts. So CL, yeah, it is a 5-min setup here to the upside, but I'm uninterested in bullish scenarios here today, because we're looking into spots to break out into where we've basically just seen bears pretty much only win. So we have a 2 out of 3 here to the downside with volume, kind of that outlier volume. It just means that I'm not really interested in going counter trend here yet. So if I had different pre-market conditions, AJ, for sure, I would be interested in this, but I don't have that. So this is kind of the area where I anticipate maybe bulls to run out of momentum, right? Give me maybe that sign of capitulation and go from there. Oh, interesting, Robert. I've never heard of foundation training, but I'll look into that. Anything to help me build up a better base. But I was doing this, like the running here. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Bouncing between topics, so bear with me here. The running is so beautiful. And I was doing this trail, and it was just like switchback after switchback after switchback. And each switchback got steeper and steeper. And so I was 7 or 8 kilometers into my run. And the incline started to get too much for me. My heart rate was maxing out, and I had to turn around. So I was trying to do a little bit more, actually, like distance wise yesterday. I wanted to do 15 kilometers and like 500 meters of elevation gain, or like 1,500 feet. But my legs couldn't do it. My legs couldn't hold up to it. So it was a very humbling experience. I thought I was in better shape than that. And of course, it does start to break down here. So a little bit, maybe a little bit unfortunate. Like the most I could get in Montreal when I was running there would be like maybe 230 meters of elevation, give or take. And that would be pretty good. But like the incline was much more gradual and all this kind of stuff. So a very, very humbling experience. It shows me how much I still got to do. Yeah, 10 minutes or so here, right, until the tariff announcement. Again, right, that's kind of what I'm waiting for here. Vinny, I like that as a routine. I think really like the valuable thing, right, with psychology is it's really easy to kind of get in like your own head and get into sort of like a feedback loop that isn't necessarily very successful. So just little like intraday pattern breakers like that can really help you basically maintain a clear head. And I think that's exceptionally valuable. Like I know from myself personally, the first thing that goes when I start to get like kind of frustrated with price action is my posture and my breathing. So when I want to reset or like kind of get back to square one, those are the things I want to focus on. Sit up straight, right? Deep breaths, right? In with the nose, out with the nose. And it kind of just sets you back up to like break that pattern. That's an interesting question, Manjeet. Like, what's a good way to identify bear traps or even bull traps? Um, like from my system or the way that I use my rules, right? I would consider a like a bear trap or a bull trap, right, to be a breakout that happens with like a strong candle and a weak volume profile, or the opposite, right? A breakout that occurs on a strong volume profile but like a weak candle shape. So scenarios where you make higher highs or lower lows with kind of conflicting pieces of information. So we generally want to see both volume and candle shape, right? Tell us that same story. When we have the divergence there between those narratives, it can become like a scenario, right, where you're maybe not going to be super confident in that. So that would be one way. And then the other kind of alternative, right, is when you get those types of capitulation candles. So a capitulation candle will often look like a really, really high volume breakout bar, but it's like a volume that's 3 or 4 times larger than you expect. Nothing here yet, Deb. Nothing here yet. Again, Deb, I say this every day, right? Is if I take a trade, right, it's always going to be reflected here inside the setup alerts channel. You can always check there, right, to see if we've taken any positions or taken any plays. So please use the resources that are available to you. It'll get you the information you need faster than me being able to answer your questions. Oh no, no real inside jokes. Just complaining about how sore I am post run. So on NQ, I would look at it as, I mean, the same thing for ES, right? Is we're basically still kind of confined inside that Friday range. So looking for a breakout under, 19,758 or above, right? 2267. Uh, in general here, Rebecca, right? So yeah, what Kiki is saying is spot on. You can drag it up or down and it'll set your take profit. But in my opinion, if you're feeling as if it's time to protect your entry, you're kind of subtly telling yourself that you're maybe not as confident in the price action anymore. And you're better off taking your profit there than waiting for it to pull back towards your entry protection and to stop you out. So it's better to take your P&L as it's increasing versus on pullbacks. All right, so 4 patient minutes left here. Kind of feels like you're waiting for the start line for a race here. CL continues to show us some decent strength. All right, it's 90 seconds here. 90 seconds. Ooh. All right, so time to kind of get Twitter up here. Walter Bloomberg, let's see what he's got to say. Not very often that I'm super interested in trading headlines. They're usually pretty meaningless to me. Let's see. Excuse me. All right. So now we're waiting for the old man to yap away for us. Really, like what we're trying to avoid here, right, is basically being caught in the backwash of the comments, right? Because if he says something controversial relative to the market, right? So he says something that the market isn't expecting, or he gives us something definitive, then there's going to be a huge flurry of algo activity, and the direction that that goes is going to be a coin flip, right? We have no idea. So very easy, right, for a headline to effectively invalidate our thesis with extreme violence. And that risk isn't worth it, right, for what has been a pretty grindy move lower here so far. You know, where we maybe have the easiest scenario would be potentially on CL if we could get a high volume rejection here. But short term on the indexes, it doesn't look worth the squeeze yet. I think that's probably the nice way of describing it. And if I'm looking at every trade I could have taken here so far, so let's say I took this setup, right, on the pullback entry technique, I would have been stopped out or near stopped out on this position before it ever runs. if I had taken this trade here at 948, right, would have just been stopped out here as well. Yes, maybe would have survived that. Those are like flirting with danger, right? So I don't think I've missed anything here yet this morning. Kind of just grind EPA, and that's I'm totally cool missing that. And again, right? Unfortunately, not every trade is always going, or not every day is going to be a trading day, right? So I'm not, and then maybe this is something I'm not as good as I was, say, a year ago. So maybe put some emphasis into it. But sometimes I'm not stubborn enough in avoiding kind of subpar setups or setups when things aren't absolutely perfect. And so to a certain extent, that's something that I'm trying to like overcorrect for here. Right? Because if I can avoid those days where I start off in a hole, right? Or I take a trade that's a compromise that when I look back on it, oh man, like why did I take this trade? I'm adding, 500, 600, $1,000, right, to my average bottom line. And that's a huge difference from a P&L perspective at the end of the year. So just trying to avoid those scenarios where I end up taking, a B trade instead of an A plus trade will make a pretty big difference. And if I can almost like remove that pressure on myself, right, to have to take a trade every single day, to have to have that action every single day, I actually do think I'll make more money. Yeah, and it means that the stream is going to be more boring, right? Which is something that I struggle with a little bit. But ultimately, I think everyone's happier when we make more, right? I think that's the balance. So I'm trying to find that right window of aggression as a room operator and finding that balance here, even if it means slowing things down, being a little bit more boring, being a little bit quieter, being a little bit calmer. Yeah, okay, it's not as entertaining and maybe not as fun. But I don't want the trade to be entertaining. If I did that, then I would, park my Lambo, in my office and scream and yell with every bit of price movement and steal you guys affiliate codes and all this kind of stuff. But that's not it's not the right way to behave. And I think yeah, one thing that I want to work on and like to remove maybe my ego from is yeah, having to give you and myself, right, that opportunity every single day to make money. And if I can avoid conditions, right, where I'm basically sitting on hands, or I can sit on hands instead of avoiding conditions that are suboptimal, it's going to be really, really positive. I think it's better for me or it's easier, I should say, as an educator to talk about the value of being patient than it is to talk about the stress of like recovering from drawdown. And so that's something that I want to focus on here a little bit for myself. I mean, there were times last year, maybe 18 months ago, where I'd be taking 3 trades a week. So, kind of gone from one version to the other. I think probably the truth or the best variant is probably somewhere in the middle. So still no headlines from Trump here yet. And again, that low vol pullback scenario coming together a little bit. Yeah, so I love Bollinger Bands. Bollinger Bands are some of my favorite indicators, but I use them more to help me determine a kind of like market conditions type scenario, right? And then for my mean reversion technique, I use basically a custom Bollinger Band, right, to basically generate these signals here for me. So yeah, I for sure do use them. What I think that those indicators that you're indicating there specifically, Joe, is there a good way to develop a directional bias and kind of give you right a idea of what you'd want to do from that perspective. So like the 200 MA, the 50 MA, the 20 MA, they can kind of tell you is it a trending market in one direction, a trending market in the other. Same thing with Bollinger Bands, right? Kind of fat bands tell you that you're looking for a mean reversion. Tight bands, right, means that you're looking for a breakout type trade. And so it can create a little bit of bias in that direction. But I think like at least with using Bollinger Bands there as a signal, um, I get the same signal right when I'm trading the opening range breakout. So it doesn't give me anything new. It doesn't give me any new information or anything necessarily unique. So from that perspective, right, I don't find that the additional information is actually that valuable. But my mean reversion technique, right, is effectively based on a Bollinger Band type scenario. And it's using the Bollinger Bands to indicate extreme bouts of expansion and then reverting away from that expansion, right? So what these are is this is a 3.5 standard deviation. And so it's when a move is, 3.5 times larger than average, you're expecting it to kind of revert back towards the mean. And that's effectively what this strategy is here. But then my opening range breakout technique and sort of my momentum concepts, I don't want to rely on any indicators for that. I want to rely on candlesticks and volume. So ES here would be the more interesting of scenarios relative to NQ, right? And it's more interesting because ES closed under its previous low of day. NQ did not. So if I'm looking at bears being stronger, they're absolutely stronger here on ES. Now, the problem with this, right, is that it's already kind of like a mature move. So for me to get the risk reward required to be able to execute this trade is probably where I'm going to struggle. And then the other element here, right, is that we're missing that outlier volume. So we've been kind of talking about how we're waiting for Trump to basically yap away here this morning prior to us being aggressive. That volume is telling us that same story, right? If it's not going to be that increasing outlier volume, I'm setting myself up to get faked out here pretty aggressively. And it's a little bit of deja vu to the first trade I had there yesterday. So if we're thinking back to the recap video from last night, the first trade was this exact same scenario. It was that high vol breakout, and I'm doing high vol in quotation marks, that low vol pullback, and then that high vol breakout again. And that high vol breakout, right, didn't occur on that increasing outlier volume. So again, right, this for me, based on my criteria, would be like a B setup instead of an A plus setup. And B setups can run, right? B setups can break down like it is here at the moment. But if I have to now compromise on my risk reward requirement to be able to enter that trade, and I want to make sure that I'm only taking A plus setups, and I still have some headline risk, it's an easy opportunity to basically talk myself out of that position. That makes sense, team? And so it's a shame, right? Because it did give us that oomph, but hey, that's a part of it. I'm never going to hold it against myself. That price action moves in my setup's favor if I don't have the confirmation required, right? That's a double jeopardy. I can't punish myself for following my rules or trick myself into thinking that, oh my gosh, look how much money I would have made had I taken this compromised trade. That's like the easiest way to kind of go on tilt, in my opinion, because you're making decisions based on an emotional feeling, right? Not necessarily based on one that's like tangible and repeatable. So when I make an entry decision, right, based on I feel like this is going to move, when it doesn't, it's really hard to admit defeat. And then you end up making, right, a lot of mistakes. You end up averaging down, you end up ignoring stop losses, you end up doing whatever stuff. And it always just bites you in the butt eventually. So maybe you'll get bailed out on one decision, maybe you'll get bailed out on two, but you won't get bailed out on the 10th one, and you'll lose everything. So it sucks. I mean, it sucks to see that, but it's the right long-term mindset, in my opinion. And I'm happy to sit on hands if that's what it takes. CL, I'm impressed by. This thing does not want to stop moving higher. Come on, Trump, start talking. So far, so slow here. Reasonable. I don't think I've gotten really any reaction to the Trump speak here yet this morning. That's still going to be slowing me down here just a little bit. Now let's start taking a look here. If anything, I'd probably want to default to trading this on a slightly longer time frame. But yeah, if he hasn't yapped away here yet this morning, I still set myself up for just a little bit too much headline risk. So it might just be a day that takes a little bit longer, and that's fine. I'm not doesn't sound bad, but I'm not jonesing for any action here yet. They're like really like the. Yeah, I know this sounds bad, but it's effectively like prior to Trump speaking and creating that momentum, right? The reaction inside the market is kind of more random than methodical. Something like CL, right, might be a little bit more interesting. That's a pretty nice little fake out inside my rejection zone, right? So I would say if I'm going to put my energy into anything, right, it's Mistress Night here in DTR. Okay, so for now we're still looking for the pullback. Too big risk though, right? That's 20 cents. I don't want to have 20 cents worth of exposure. That's too much. So we need to get 77 or better here as an entry on the pullback technique. Otherwise, right, would like to see basically give me the aggressive technique so I could look for that continuation move lower. There it is. All right. Oh, stop loss here, 59.67, and you're looking for a pullback into like 59.60-ish. Okay, so getting everything set up. All right, and if you're risking approximately, say, 6 cents a contract, how much is that value per contract? What does that mean? Okay, so now we got to change our stop loss here, right? It would be 59.71. So that would be 11 points of risk, right? I would probably move this up to then be 61 as my entry. And I can go 5 contracts on that, right? No, I'm not in here yet, guys. I'm not in here yet. I will always let you know. Trump finally said something. All right, so we've gotten a little bit of something here about the tariffs. Still looking at this short though, right, on CL. That's probably the most appealing to me here still. And it's my plan hasn't changed, right? So looking for a gentle pullback here into 59.61 or better. The stop loss at 59.71. That would mean I'm risking 10 cents per contract. Right? And CL moves $10 for every cent. So I'm risking $100 a contract. So determine what your max loss number is. Mine for me is approximately $500. So I'm purchasing 5 contracts here short if it gives me an opportunity. So watching closely here, right? Watching closely here. Okay, watching. Come on. Oh, that was one tick away. Let's see. Again, one tick away. Okay, watching closely here. Trying to get a discount. All right, guys. So I am in. Average price 59.62, 5 contracts. Stop loss, right? 59.71. And maybe not the perfect entry there. Well, let's see. I need more information than that, Deb, to be able to answer that question appropriately. Probably sounds like you're taking on too many contracts. Again, man, like I just said, I would need more information. If you have any issues with the Top Step, please deal with them directly. I have no oversight over your Top Step account or the error messages associated with it. They have a support team and a live chat. Please use that. I have no oversight there. So I just got stopped out on that trade. Literally fake out and breakdown. That is savage. Ruthless little fake out. Back to entry price instantly. That's so mean. Yeah, it feels like every day this week, the first trade of the day is always just a violent fake out. And that's a ruthless one. If this thing sets back up on the 3 min, we'll have another opportunity to try. That was mean. Mean machine. Yeah, but the headlines there of the tariff agreement have already been released, Kyle. So it's zero tariffs on beef and 10% on British automakers. Yeah, and that fake out was nasty. What a life. Okay, so ES, maybe we could look at here. Green to red, or sorry, red to green type reversal, increasing outlier volume, fake out lower, right? Would prefer the aggressive technique here unless it can pull back dramatically. All right, so now we're looking at ES here to the upside. Yeah, guys, just as a reminder, right? If you don't know the restrictions that you have in your account to be able to place a trade, don't place a trade or expect someone else to bail you out with that information. That is 100% your responsibility. You'd be looking at an entry at 87 or better. Now, that was a little bit too fast of a pullback. And so 3 points, right, would be $150 a contract. So you'd be looking at 3 contracts. Okay, and now your stop loss would be 83.25. And maybe starting to behave like a rejection more than a continuation. Oh no, you don't have anything to complain about there, Kyle, or to apologize for. Not necessary. All right, so NQ touched outlier. I'm okay with that. Be looking at something like this, 20.095 as a stop loss. This is going fast. Okay, and you need to see a pullback, right, into at least that green line. I'm going to say around there. Okay. Again, this would be a 1 contract play here, guys, right? A 1 contract play. Oh, it's just not pulling back just enough. Stop would be the red line, right? You can always see it on my chart here, Joe, as the red line. I'm not sure if I like the size of that bounce here. So the difference between my green line, right, and my red line is my appropriate risk reward zone. My white line here is my profit target, and my blue line is my anticipated entry price. But I'm not super confident in this reaction here yet, so I want to be just a little bit patient. Meh. I'm still watching. I'm still watching. I don't think the idea has been invalidated, but watching with prejudice. And if I don't get an entry here on the 3 min, it looks like it's going to set up for me as well here on the 5. A more aggressive profit target, right? So now stop would be 2065. Higher now. 2071. And I'm watching quite carefully here, guys. Watching carefully. Could also look at the pullback technique, right? Which would make my stop loss 107.75. That would mean I need a much deeper pullback, right? To basically justify an entry. Basically anywhere above that blue line, right? Preferably as close to 100 as possible. So everyone understand what the plan is here? Everyone understand the plan? All right, good, good. And yeah, for sure, Ajay, right? It does seem to be rejecting off of 80. But if I buy at 80 and my stop loss is 108, I'm risking, you know, more than I should be on that trade. I'm risking 15% more than I should be. I can't pull the trigger on that. I have to be stubborn. Okay, sorry. Okay, so still no appropriate pullback here. It's a shame. So close. 2 points. Oh, being disciplined sucks sometimes. And this might be giving us a little reversal scenario too. Just red. Lower low, lower high, a fake out above that green candle could still potentially be interesting as an entry. That's like the best bulls got, right? Could still be reasonably in play here. My head's still spinning a little bit from that CL fake out. That was a wacky trade. Don't think I can do that. I think that's too aggressive. So it'd still have to be that. I'm still trying to warm up a bit this morning. It's cold in here. Holy. At least on the bright side, CL hasn't gone down to like 59 bucks. It's kind of just been hanging out. So that does make me feel better. Excuse me. I think there's a lot of trades that I can talk myself into here, which I don't think is the right mindset. I think this 3-min entry is what's maybe most appealing from that context. I think there's a chance to set back up again here. Yeah, we're just still looking for a continuation of this signal. Yeah, you are correct. It isn't that outlier volume. So again, right, I think it's a scenario where I could probably talk myself out of it. On the 3-min, this would be the outlier volume, and nothing there has invalidated it. But I've also not had a chance to basically get a clean entry. And the target's a little bit suspicious. CL going to give me another opportunity. $56. Let's get rid of some of these lines. In crude, we've thinned out volume-wise here quite a bit. Yeah. And we did a good job there talking ourselves out of that. Wonder if we get one of those equal moves down, equal moves up type scenarios here. And kind of what happened yesterday, right? Equal move higher, equal move lower. But just looking for some sort of bullish confirmation, if that's going to be the scenario. And it's got those apple bottom jeans, right, Igor? Let's see if it can give us a nice confirmation. Now we're a minute to go. We should be able to get outlier volume here, I would think. Then our target would be high of day, I think, not our 2R range. And we ideally want to see it close probably above that. Maybe this. But if this turns into that rejection and gives me that red candle and increasing outlier, then we're back in business. All right, so target here would be 19.9. Stop at 2040, 2042. So you still need a decent pullback here, something along those lines. So 2026. Okay, so watching here closely, guys, for the short. Watching here closely for the short. Okay, sweet. So I am in 2024.75, 2024.75 short. Stop loss is at 42. And so far, so good. Really good. So let's see if this thing can keep breaking down here. This might be a scenario where I might have a chance to pyramid. But so far, so good. 800 bucks. Basically want to see this candle, right, close under 20,000. This pullback sucks. Come on, keep going. Much better. Okay, good close, good close. So now let's see if this thing can continue to break down here. I don't have a super obvious stop loss location yet, so I gotta be patient on the pyramid. Bouncy. Oh boy, very bouncy. Can't say I like this as a pullback very much. Come on, come on. Things flirting in the wrong way. Okay, here it goes. Watch, watch, watch. Come on. Man, this is bouncy. Okay, watching closely here again. Come on. Stop flirting. Gotta die. Come on. Man. Come on. It doesn't want to crack through 20,000 again. Oh, it's got to go. Come on, get through 20, get through 20, and flush. A 10-point bounce. Another attempt here. Got to flush through. I'll be honest, this is the hardest I felt like I've worked in a trade in a long time here. Come on, flush through here. Flush, flush, flush. This is your spot, NQ. This is your spot. Come on, go. Crack. Absolutely flirted with my stop loss here too. Come on. Um, the increasing volume is a little bit of a nuisance. I feel a little bit dumb for not taking that $800 when I had it. Yeah, I just got stopped out. It's a dumb trade. I had a lot of chances there to get out, and I didn't take them. Sounds good. Well done, Kiki. Well done, Manji. Good job, guys. I feel a little bit stupid after that trade. Was holding out for too much hope on that 20,000 break. Yeah, I think once it failed though on like that third attempt, should have gone out. Not stubborn. So this bar is now looking like that capitulation, right? In hindsight. I do feel stupid after that trade though. I feel greedy. So minus 856.88. We should have been up, $500. Dumb, 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 dumb. Not enough volume on that 3-min reversal. Yeah, ruthless game. And this is a little bit complicated. So arguably have a short setup here too. Breakdown through low of day, hold that, increasing outlier volume, inside bar, low vol pullback relative to previous candle. I'd have to look like this. Again, watching for a short here. Reluctantly. But it is my setup. I got to take it. Nice work, Hazel. 400 bucks is fantastic. Good job for not getting greedy, team. All right, so still watching here for a short. Yeah, that's kind of what I think, Manjeet. Yeah. Theme of this week has been fake out central. Frustrating. Yeah, well, it's a double-edged sword, right? If you hold out for longer on this trade, you'd be down $1,000, right? Okay, so watching closely here. Hey guys, so I am in average price 2079, 2079.25, two contracts, stop loss right at that 92. And it's 79.25. Stopped out again. Motherfucker. It's gonna be another fake out, isn't it? I'm getting faked out like crazy today. I got maybe one more stab at this. Frustrating. Okay, good thing. Whew. All right. That's enough of that. So we're going to be looking now for an upside scenario here, right? Put me out of my misery on the short. And now we're looking green to red reversal. All right, so you're looking at an entry right around 100, right? Right around 100, stop loss of 83. Ay, caramba. Won't be able to use the aggressive technique. So if it does give me that opportunity, right, I'm going to have to wait for this on the 5-min. .90 seconds to go. Frustrating week. And the reason, right, why I'm targeting the 2R range, right, or that 281 here on NQ versus high of day is because we're going for equal move lower, equal move higher, right? So we've seen a move here to the downside, hit that 2R range. So now, right, if we're going to get that upside follow through in this choppy conditions, based on recent price action, we've constantly seen it do that, you know, same move higher, same move lower. Fuck me. And it's purely a mistake here today, right? Not taking that win for what it was. That was a tough mistake. All right. So again, now immediately looking for the aggressive entry technique. Stop loss for now, 149. Okay, and I'd be looking at 2 contracts here. Maybe 3. It's elevator down, not stairs down. So I'm waiting. Better. So now give me a gentle pullback here, please. Back to looking at 2. Okay, watching closely here on this pullback, right? Watching closely here on this pullback. Watching, watching, watching. Oh, didn't get a fill. Oh, there we go. Now I did. All right. So I'm in 161.75. Two contracts. Stop at 149. Come on, baby. There we go. Starting to finally get some follow. All right. So next hurdle, right, is above 180. And if we can sustain this breakout, we're going to be in great shape. I hate this little pattern we're in recently. All right. Keep flying here. Okay. Looking good. Looking good. Now we want to get above 190 and then above 200. There we go, team. There we go. So 1500, 1600 on this trade puts me now nicely green here on the day. What a bullshit session. All right. So it's got to hold above 200 here on this candle close. Otherwise, I got to look to get out. Oh. The fuck. What the fuck? That was ridiculous. Blink of an eye. I can't believe it. That is one of the most insulting fake outs I've ever gotten in my entire life. 3 seconds. Crazy. That was ruthless and then some. What the? That is 3 trades where it's just vicious fake outs. Are you kidding me? All right, reset. Oh man, I really want to try this again. All right, I'm going to. Hey guys, so I am in long 187.25, stop loss 180. Just an absolutely ruthless day. All right, this trade's working out nicely, so going to be very aggressive in how I'm taking off profit here. Give me a pop. Man. I'm Okay, keep going here. Keep going, NQ. Keep going. Come on. Stressful day. Come on. Again, same thing, right? We need this candle to close above the previous high a day. Otherwise, I have to get out. Time is left 50 seconds. Okay, guys, I am out, right? I am out of this trade. Did not hold above 200. Exit price on that, 190.75. I'm having some serious trust issues, so I'd rather scalp it almost. Again, leaving a lot of money on the table. Theme of the day. Ay, 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 ay. Of course. Hey guys, I am back in here. I am back in average price 226, average price 226. Stop loss is at entry price. Okay, I am out. Just going to scalp some of these moves here. Try this again. Okay. Back in at 243. Entry. All right, it's got to run here aggressively now. Okay, beautiful. Keep pushing, keep pushing. There's 1,400, 1,500. Okay, I have just closed there. I have just closed there. Yeah, stop loss was at entry. Okay, again, we're going to keep looking for this continuation, playing these small little moves. It's the only thing we can trust here. Stop loss 269, targeting 2400. Well, yeah, 2400. Fuck me. All right. Really got focus here. Down 292.52 on the day, down 292.52. And I should be up. Should be up way more than I am. Stop loss, right, would be 270 here, or 269. Okay, I'm back in long. I'm back in long. 281.25. Stop loss, right, 269. Okay, and let's see if this thing can pop. Okay, guys, I have closed there. I have closed there, putting me green on the day. Oh my God. Fuck me, what a working day. Sorry, it was 187, Antonin. Sorry, it was 187. Sorry, things are going really fast, so apologies. All right. So somehow sitting 129.64 here on the day. This should have been triple. But I had to really work on this. Oh, man. It's so bullshit that I had to get my ass kicked to adopt an aggressive take profit strategy. That's honestly so bullshit. Again, another setup trigger here. $290.75 would be the stop loss. So just wait, be a little bit patient. Oh my God. Okay, good patience, good patience. Now 286.50 would be stop. I'm looking for a pullback here. Okay. So I am in 301.75, 301.75. Okay, and closing it there at 314, closing it there at 314. Oh my gosh. And that's 911.80 on the day. Oh, all right. I think I am done here, guys. My hand is honestly literally shaking here a little bit. I am done. I think I'm mentally spent, and I think I did a good enough job there, bouncing back. Fuck me, that was ugly. Oh. Whew. How you guys feeling? Oh man. Oh, all right. Today was I had to fight today, team. I had to really fight. Very, very, very frustrating session. And today should have been a 5K day. Honestly, should have been a 5K day, Mark. I had two trades that those alone, I went from up being 1600 to stopped out in 2 seconds on a play, which was absolutely nuts. And then had a couple where I was up, 1,000, and then somehow again got stopped out on those. So a combination of being a little bit too greedy early, and I had to like really dramatically overcorrect for that for these last trades. But I got to be honest here, team. Like my adrenaline is at its wit's end here. That was very, very stressful trading. And it wasn't stressful because the plan was wrong. It was stressful because things were moving so quick and I had to fight back against my demons. Because on each individual trade, I wanted to make it all back in one go. And that would have led to me losing even more, right? So fighting against my like emotional state, right? And like kind of what my impulses were in the moment took a tremendous amount of work. But it's also the only reason why I'm up $911. So that was some fuck you price action today. Absolutely fuck you. All right, team. Any questions here for me today? Anything you guys want to go over? I am yeah, I'm a little bit mentally spent, Mark. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, today's recap is going to be an interesting one because there was a lot of stuff running through my head. No, I'm not sure if I do, Aj. I'm pretty happy to be walking away green. You green on the day? Let's go. 1,500 bucks. Congratulations. Nice work, Rico. So yeah, I'm happy the team is green here. That for me is fantastic. I think this was probably the most challenging trading day of the year from my perspective. Just like mentally, I mean, price action is what it is. It's always difficult, but mentally here today, I was pushed to my wit's end. Oh. And again, right? Equal move higher, equal move lower. Pretty much to the T here. We'll call it 146 lower versus 143 higher. Yeah, John, let me bring up my paper trader here. I'll show you my process. So guys, this is just a fake trade. I'm not taking this position. So let's say that I'm setting up an order here, right, to go short. And I want my stop loss to be here. We'll call it 306, right? So I'll type short, stop loss, 306. And then I'll set my price to be ticks 0. So then what I'll do, right, is I'll have my line drawn out, right? Let's say I want my entry to be there, 281, and I'll wait, right, for this price to be above 281 with ticks set at 0, and it'll give me the best possible fill there. So let's see if we can get it. So all I'd be doing, right, is now waiting, cool. And I'm in a position. And my entry price was 287. And then when I'm looking to get out, just clicking the X. So I'm identifying where I want my entry zone to be, setting up my risk for that. And then once it's above that price, right, setting my ticks to the ask or ticks to the bid, just depending on which side I'm looking at. And then I'm looking to get the best possible entry price above that price. Ooh. I honestly can't believe I'm green today. So 9/11/80 on the day, never forget. No, I'm not placing any further trades, guys. I'm at my wit's end. It would be impossible for me to be stoic Mike here. Yeah. So any questions here, team? Any questions? Oh yeah, I got my whole day to look ahead to. Sorry, are you a Falcons fan? Are you a Giants or Jets? Giants or Jets? Oh, I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm not sure if we can be friends anymore. Let's go, Greg. Go Birds. Greg, awesome day, man. Yeah, good question. So when I fell in love with American football in grade 6, that's kind of when I first realized that it was a thing. And that year, Donovan McNabb was on the Madden cover. What year was grade 6? I don't even know. That would have been 2007, maybe something like that. 2008. And then so I started to become like an NFL fan and all this kind of stuff. And the basketball team that I played for had they clearly ripped off the Eagles uniform, and so the jersey I had had like the Eagles logo on it, and it was 2008, maybe 2009. And my mom was like, "Oh, I'm not going to buy you another jersey. You've already got enough jerseys." So I already had the Eagles jersey. McNabb was on the cover, so I became a fan because of that. And yeah, happy days. Got to see 2 Super Bowl wins. This year, I went to my first game at Lincoln Financial Field, and it was the NFC Championship game. And it was probably the drunkest I've ever been in my entire life, to put it mildly. So I had an absolute blast. And yeah, Eagles fan for me for sure. Oh, Eagles Pats, yeah, that's a lose-lose situation for you. Yeah, I mean Howie Roseman, he's a superstar. It's actually really cool. So one of the coolest things that has happened to me about having kind of like a um, online presence, you want to call it that, is I actually became quite friendly with the guy who used to run the Eagles salary cap. So yeah, really really cool guy. He's doing a little startup here where he's effectively like a GM for college football teams, and he's an ex-trader, and we actually connected over Twitter, and I get to talk ball with him every now and then, so it's pretty cool. He offered me a job working for him, and when I saw the pay package, I had to decline. But that's been definitely one of the coolest things that's come out of kind of my social media profile. It's been pretty sweet. When I was I went to law school, right? And I went to law school in the UK. This is the last word time because I got a call. I got to jump on here in a second. But I had I had to do a dissertation effectively, right, to pass, and I had to do it on like a form of like some sort of binding agreement, and I did it on the NFL collective bargaining agreement. That's what I did my dissertation on, and it was awesome. I had an absolute blast doing it. When I submitted it to my teachers, they were like, "What the fuck is this? Like, you couldn't have picked something UK based." And so I got docked quite a few points for doing it something about the NFL instead of something that was based in UK law. So good time. Yeah, well, they wanted me to do something that was yeah, based on like British standards, right, or governed by British law, which is reasonable, right? But at that point, I was so checked out. I knew I was already going to be a trader, so I decided to do something for passion. All right, team. Well, look, same deal like always, right? If you have any questions, hit me up outside of market hours. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, guys, have yourselves a fantastic rest of the day. Really well done for fighting back here this morning. This was a really challenging session. Tested my mental capital, and yeah, glad to be walking away here green. Not an easy day, but glad we kind of were able to take advantage of this momentum here to the upside. Played basically that squeeze well. And yeah, hopefully we can have kind of a smoother and calmer trading day there tomorrow. But back to green here on the week. So can't really complain about that. And yeah, I mean, like I said, this was my 28-3 comeback here. So maybe did some things that I maybe wouldn't have pushed here normally, but stoked to be green. And it's going to be a pretty intense recap video here later this afternoon. So keep an eye out for that and make sure to show you guys my executions and sizing and all that fun stuff. So have yourselves a great day, team. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, and talk to you guys then.